The basic idea when I was asking people not to sit in the back is that I think entrepreneurship is not a spectator sport, and you need to be right in it. I'm very grateful to some of my friends who are here. Anna, who is the teaching assistant for the sales class at ESADE Business School, and we got the ESADE logo here. And you all should stay here because there's some big guys from ESADE who are going to come after my talk, and it's worth it. And Ursi is here. Ursi works with me on an executive education course in sales. It's 2 days, intense workshop. Next one is in Istanbul and in Madrid, so great. Now, why are we talking about sales? And why is that important? Oh, did you get the memo? This is audience participation. That's why I wanted you in the front row, because I know he's a smart guy, and he's in the second row where I can get an eye on him. And you, who was brave enough to sit back there, I'm calling on you next. Why are we talking about sales? Why?
Well, that's all about sales.
It's all about sales. Well, go on.
Well, first you need to sell your business.
Because? Why do you have to sell first?
To get people on board.
You can't recruit top-notch people until you have proven that customers will buy your stuff. So even if you're a geek, you're going to be the one that's going to be doing the selling, because you won't be able to recruit professional salespeople or others to the company until the value proposition has been validated. That's correct. And then what's the second reason why we got to have sales first?
If you don't have sales,
if you don't have sales, you don't have a company.
you just have an idea.
You just have an idea which can languish in an ivory tower, right? Because a great idea without customers is nothing, really. So you got to have a customer to recruit people. What else? Are there any venture capitalists here or angel investors? Okay, well, I can tell you that if you don't have customers, you can freaking forget getting money from institutional capital, right? I think last time I saw you, that was what we were talking about. Yeah. Come back when you have a customer. Say that again, louder.
We keep hearing from angels, come back when you've got customers.
Yeah.
We love your idea. Come back.
Yeah. You're adorable. Right? But you have a customer to validate your idea. And is it new, or has it been around a long time? Forever. Now, how many of you are business school students? Okay, so what percentage of the CEOs of the 5,000 largest companies in the world came up through sales? A good amount. That's not, I'm an MIT guy and I like numbers, okay? That's a typical MBA answer, you know, correct but not operational. Now, give me a number, man. 80%. Probably 80% of the CEOs of 5,000 largest companies came up through sales. So what's the message? You better get a sales job. When should your first sales job take place? The sooner the better. Another MBA answer. No numbers. I need some numbers. Huh? Probably before you graduate from high school, you should have a summer job selling. And that's why the kids, entrepreneurs, have a high likelihood of entrepreneurs because usually violate the child labor laws and get their kids involved in the company as soon as possible, like delivering to customers or going to see customers when you're 7, 8, or 10 years old. So those of you who have kids, get them involved in the company as early as possible and make sure they're out there selling, because you can handle the rejection better if you know that you can come home and get it from mom. Good. So learn to sell early. It's good for your career. Forget having a startup without customers, because you won't be able to recruit people or raise money to grow. So now, I guess you are here because you have bought into the idea that sales is critical in building a startup. Now, how many of you are engineers? Okay, well, I have some good news for the engineers, but first, I have a strong statement for you. Salespeople are not lower life forms. Okay? So I want all the engineers in the audience who promise that they will not think of salespeople as lower life forms to raise your hand, okay? I promise I won't. Okay? So I know this is a little bit like a Billy Graham rally, but it'll get better. Good. So the first message is salespeople are not lower life forms. Here's the second message for the engineers. It's good news. Sales is a science, not an art, and it can be learned even by geeks. So how many of you would, realistically, in this friendly audience, classify yourself as a geek? Okay? I'm a geek, right? So, right? So I just, you used to be a geek, or you're half a geek, or what is that? What does this mean? Okay, you're a geek. Okay, so good. So do you agree with me that geeks are going to rule the world? It's just a matter of time.
I don't think it's that simple.
It's not that, unfortunately, it's not that simple. Okay, but geeks can learn to sell because it's a science, not an art. And I want to start on that process right now. And what is the definition of an elevator pitch? Martin?
That you're able to sell your ideas in 20 seconds.
Okay, so you got the fact that it's short, and you came up with a number, so that's very good. But anybody want to build on his statement? An elevator pitch.
I think it's also attract attention.
You have to attract attention. So he said sell. I'm not sure that you're going to convince somebody in 20 seconds or 55 seconds to buy from you, but you can get their attention in order to do what?
Just exchange business cards.
Exchange business cards, and what happens to your business card when the guy leaves? Well, most high-octane business people, when they go to networking events like tonight in Plaza Catalunya, will take your business card, and if they care about you, they will put it in their left pocket. And if they don't, it goes in the right pocket. So triage is instant, okay? And when they get home, or even before they get home, everything in the right-hand pocket goes in the bin. So what do you have to do to get in the left-hand pocket with your elevator pitch? And he's right, it has to be short.
It has to be short, but it also has to be appealing. So if it's only short but boring, perhaps you can make just a small joke and make him laugh or make her laugh, because perhaps this is something you won't forget. You even don't have to speak about your business. I think if you just attract by making a funny joke about the weather and it's just funny, then you stay in contact and you can speak about your business afterwards.
So may I agree with 62% of what you said? Okay. The first, I want to be just a little bit controversial. How many English people do we have here? Okay. So I have a problem with England. English people think that they should talk about the weather, okay? Because they don't want to presume. So, you know, you spend half of the elevator pitch talking about the weather. I'm convinced, privately convinced, I can't prove this, that the GDP of the UK would go up by a full percentage point if everybody stopped talking about the freaking weather, okay? But what you said, the 62%, that's wonderful, leave aside the Donnerwetter, right, is you have to make a connection with some kind of empathy. And humor is part of a connection. And so I think that an elevator pitch, which let's say it's a minute, you spend 20 seconds establishing common ground, some kind of connection, and the 40 seconds, you don't talk about your business, you talk about her business or his business, and demonstrate a mastery of what's keeping them awake at night, looking at the world from their point of view. And now here's the hardest part. It's usually questions. So if you're meeting the head of R&D for a big pharmaceutical company, let's say, you might want to say, is it still true that you guys spend $1 million a day bringing a new drug to market? Well, it turns out that the answer is yes, unfortunately, or fortunately. If we could save you 120 or 150 days, would that be interesting? I mean, you got some numbers there, that's good, and 150 million, even for an R&D guy in big pharma, is a real number, right? So there's two questions that show that you understand his pain. And it leads up to, and everybody knows from psychology books, that if they say yes twice, they're more likely to say yes the third time. And so your third question could be to ask for the meeting. Because the purpose of an elevator pitch is to get them to be willing to spend more time with you. And if you can't do it in a minute, if you can't establish rapport, demonstrate mastery of their number one headache, and offer an appealing and interesting alternative to their headache, or position yourself as aspirin for their pain. If you can't do that in a minute, you don't have a business. Now, usually at this point, especially when I'm in different parts of Europe, somebody raises their hand and says, but you don't understand, I need at least an hour to explain my PhD thesis and why it's relevant to him. And you know what? The only person who has time to spend an hour hearing about your PhD thesis is your uncle. But anybody with money, power, and influence only has a minute to decide whether they're going to spend more time with you or not. And you need people with money, power, and influence to help you build your company. So, okay, we've been at this now for 7 minutes, and I've already said that technology is not as important as sales. I've already said that geeks have to do the selling, and I've said that you have to be able to get the attention of Senor Grande in a minute with an elevator pitch that speaks his language. So what I'm talking about today is mainly business-to-business, high-value, technology-based solutions, not what I call B2C BS, okay? So, and you said it perfectly. You said it, you said it. Good selling is like charm. If you don't have it, nothing else matters. Good. So here's my favorite thing that I get at the Mobile World Congress every year. Guys come up to me and say, "We have the best technology. It's amazing. All we have to do is show these guys the technology, and they'll fall in love." What about that, Farley?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Was that sarcastic? Was that English sarcasm?
That was American.
That was American sarcasm. Okay. So you mean the technology doesn't sell? Oh. What do they buy then, Farley, if they don't buy technology?
Buy the dream.
They buy the dream, or they buy aspirin for pain, right? So as far as I'm concerned, the definition of sales, well, what is it? This is the sales thing, right? So native language English, right?
Yes.
So what is sales? You came to a sales talk. What is it?
Sales is about understanding who your customers are and what their pain is,
Okay.
and how to address it. Right?
Say the perfect, A plus. Say it again. You're on camera.
So sales
over there. Not so candid camera.
Okay. So sales is about finding out who your customers are, what their pain is, and how you can actually address that.
Right.
And actually getting out and talking to them and finding the people that want your solutions and also adapting your solution to their requirements.
So is the user the customer?
It depends
That's
upon
a trick
your
question,
business.
by the way.
That would depend upon your business, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So in B2B, is the user the customer?
No. So in my case, I actually sell software development kits. My immediate customer is another intermediate company, which then sells us on to the end consumer. So I have to actually design my SDKs for the end consumer, and I have to actually present that to the person I'm selling to, so they can see that they can take a complete solution out without having to add all that stuff themselves. It comes as a pre-made solution. So when I do my design of my products and my sales, I have to actually think about
The
who
customer
the actual
of
end
your
customer
customer.
is. Exactly.
The customer of your customer will pull it through,
Exactly.
but they don't buy it themselves.
No.
Yes, sir.
I think most of the time the guy who takes the decision on the purchasing decision is not the guy who's going to use the thing.
Yeah. And who drives the decision process?
Or there might be a lot of
Yeah.
triggers. One might be costs, one might be revenue, one might be we need this to stay in the game, one might be image, one might be prestige.
And do you think that prestige is enough to convince the finance guy?
Not necessarily the finance guy, but the finance guy might not be one who takes the final decision.
Can he stop it?
Sometimes, many times.
Yeah. So there's a jury. It's not one guy. There's a guy who needs it and who drives it, but he has to get the consensus of the others.
In big companies, usually, yes.
Yeah. And they have different perspective, right? And what do we call the finance guy? Dr. No. So it depends. But they're not going to buy from you unless they trust you. And what does it take for them to trust you? Very good, Herr Melter. Dankeschön. Yeah. What does it take to make them trust you? Huh? Well, she says make them laugh, and in a way that's right, some kind of connection, an emotional references help a lot. as a basis for trust? Well, I don't know if we can do it for you, but we did it for that guy, and that guy is a little bit like you. He's not exactly like you, but he had the same headache. Yeah, references are good. But I think the key point is you don't want to be telling them about you. You want to be showing that you understand them. That you share their vision for what they want to do with the company. You understand their work environment, their constraints, their challenges. And if you could only ask one question to somebody, to a potential customer, let's say Herr Melter's jury, okay? There's different people involved, but there is this primary guy who's driving the decision. If you could only ask him or her one question, what would it be? What's keeping you awake at night? What's your biggest headache? What's your pain? Or, if you're feeling really courageous, what are your KPIs? What do you have to do to get a bonus this year? Because let's face it, in large companies, the communists in human resources have cooked up 17 irrelevant KPIs, and there's 2 that really matter. And if he doesn't nail those two KPIs, he doesn't get a bonus, right? Or in Spain, he doesn't get to keep his job. You're a visitor to a very special economy, young man. and if you can help somebody keep